The recipe is going to show up here, and you can pause to write this one down, but again, I've taken bits and pieces and made my own recipe out of it. So I've taken about 7 pounds of tomatoes, chopped them into a pot. It goes. Onions, chop those up, and then I'm going to put them in the pot, and then I'll stir it together, and you'll see how beautiful it looks. Next, we've got garlic. I've got 3 different kinds of garlic here. I think that adds a lot of flavor to it. So I've peeled those, and I'm going to chop them up, and then I'll put them into the pot. I do have a little elephant garlic in there as well. So there it goes into my pot. And then we'll stir it up, and you'll see it's starting to look more and more like traditional salsa as we go along here. I'm using hatch peppers. One of them was really hot, so I cut them in half. And I'll chop up half and retain half to see if I need it. But since I'm opening up a pepper, I'm keeping the seeds. It's a nice hot pepper. They're darker in color, but I just throw them onto a paper towel, wait for them to dry, and I'll put them away. Here's half the hot pepper chopped up, and into the pot it goes, and we'll give it a little stir. There's the other half that I've retained for later if I need it, and it turns out I did. Just a little tip, when you're chopping up onions and things like that, keep the bits together and throw them in a bag, put in your freezer, and you can use that for stock when you make it in the future. Here's my cilantro. I've chopped that up. Into the pot it goes. We'll give it a little stir. It's looking beautiful. The cilantro is a little trick for you. If you cut off the ends, treat this as if it was fresh flour. So cut off the ends. Have a little container with some water in it. Put the cilantro, parsley, whatever you want into the water, and it will keep for at least a week, if not longer, on your countertop or in the refrigerator. So another look at our pot. We're bringing it to boil. Putting in some salt. I use kosher salt. You can use canning salt. If you use iodized salt, sometimes that can change the color of the canning process, the solution after it's done. I use white vinegar. Recipe called for red vinegar. I prefer white, so I use the white vinegar. And it calls for lime, so I'm using a fresh lime here. And here's a little trick for you. If you roll it on the counter back and forth before you cut into it, you'll get a lot more juice out of it. It's a lot easier to juice. So into the pot it goes. So now I'm looking at that other part of the hatch pepper, and I'm thinking, yeah, let's dump it in there. Now I've got my water bath pot heating up. I've got all my stuff out, waiting to be used. Everything is in order there, so I'm happy about that. Put stuff out ahead of time. It'll make your life a lot easier. Using my funnel, filling it up, the jars up, and you want to leave about a ½ inch to an inch of headspace. And you know it's an inch of headspace when you fill it to that bottom ring. That's 1 inch. And you can see that's where I'm pointing to on these pint jars. Easy way to tell if you've got the right amount of fluid and stuff in there. Wipe the rims off with white vinegar before you put the lids and you wipe off the lip before you put the lid and the ring on. Make sure there's no gunk in there. So I've done that to several. I'm adding them into my water bath, which is coming to the boil right now. Everything is super hot. Everything was hot. The water bath was hot. All my containers were hot. The lids were hot. And you can see I had the perfect amount for 8 pints. So into the boiling water it goes. And now we boil them for 15 minutes. It's done now. So I'm going to grab my pot or my jar lifter, and I lift it out directly onto a towel. I keep old bath towels, and I use them for this. You want to keep stuff out of the breeze and warm while they're cooling down. Everything's pinging as I'm taking it out, so I'm happy with this result. And so I've got 8 jars right there. But I did want to show you that sometimes with tomatoes, the tomatoes will separate from the water or the fluid that's in there. So you'll see the jar on the right is perfect, but the jar on the left has water in the bottom, and that's tomato water. It's wonderful. This is perfectly normal, and it happens. So there you go. Thanks for watching.